The Galactic Council had made one critical mistake. They assumed humans would follow protocol. Sophia pressed her small hands against the reinforced glass of the observation deck, watching the Krell warships descend through Titan Academy's atmospheric shield like predators, circling wounded prey. At 7 years old, she understood enough to know that the adults were scared, something she'd never seen before. All students to the evacuation pods. The automated voice echoed through the corridors. Sophia didn't move. She couldn't. Her brother Joseph was still in the engineering section, 3 levels down, and the Krell were already breaching the lower decks. The Krell were known throughout the galaxy as efficient conquerors. They followed rules of engagement, honored surrender protocols, and treated prisoners according to the galactic conventions. They were civilized in their brutality. What they didn't understand was that humans had a different definition of civilization. Joseph heard his sister scream through his communicator, a terrified, desperate sound that cut through the chaos of alarms and explosions. Something primal ignited in his chest, something the Krell had never encountered in their 3,000 years of conquest. He was 18, a junior engineer assigned to maintain the Academy's defensive systems. His instructors had praised his technical skills but noted his concerning emotional volatility in his file. The Galactic Council preferred soldiers who thought in probabilities and tactical assessments. They didn't understand human rage. "Sophia, stay where you are," Joseph transmitted, his voice deadly calm. His fingers flew across the engineering console, bypassing every safety protocol, every failsafe, every carefully designed limitation that kept the Academy's reactor from becoming a weapon. The Krell commander, Thexlar, led his troops through the lower corridors with practiced efficiency. 73 species had surrendered to his forces. The Academy's headmaster had already transmitted their yield signal. This was procedure. This was civilized. Then the lights went out. Emergency power didn't activate. Life support didn't engage. The Krell switched to thermal imaging and found themselves facing something their databases had no reference for. A human who had stopped following the rules. Joseph had rerouted everything: life support, communications, defensive systems, even the gravity generators, into a single purpose. The Academy's hallways became his weapon, bulkheads sealed and unsealed in patterns that separated Krell squadrons. Oxygen levels dropped in targeted sections. The temperature in Corridor 7 plunged to -40 degrees in seconds. "What is this?" Thexlar demanded, his translator struggling with the interference. "This violates 17 conventions of..." The explosion cut him off. Not a reactor breach, something more surgical. Joseph had turned the maintenance drones into missiles, the power conduits into shaped charges, the environmental systems into nerve gas dispensers using nothing but cleaning, supplies and chemistry lessons. The Krell had never faced an enemy who weaponized their own infrastructure with such reckless abandon. They were trained for warfare. Joseph was fighting with the desperate creativity of a brother protecting his sister. Sophia watched through the observation deck as Krell soldiers retreated from the lower levels, their organized formations breaking into confused clusters. She pressed the communicator. "Joseph?" "Stay there, Sophia, I'm coming." The Krell regrouped at the main entrance, preparing for a coordinated assault. Thexlar accessed the Academy's database, trying to understand this anomaly. The file on Joseph Chen showed a mediocre student with emotional regulation issues. Nothing that suggested this, but humans didn't fit easily into databases. The Galactic Council had discovered this too late. Humans were individually weak, their technology borrowed and adapted, their presence in the galaxy barely a footnote. What made them dangerous wasn't their strength. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat when something they loved was threatened. Joseph emerged from the maintenance shaft behind the Krell lines. He held nothing but a plasma torch and a container of coolant. The Krell spun toward him, weapons raised. "You've violated every protocol," Thexlar said. "Your species will face consequences." Joseph smiled, not the diplomatic expression the Krell had seen on human ambassadors, but something feral. "You threatened my sister. There are no protocols for that." He triggered the coolant release. Super compressed liquid nitrogen flooded the corridor, and Joseph fired the plasma torch into it. The resulting explosion wasn't large, but the concussive force in the enclosed space sent Krell soldiers flying. Joseph was already moving, his body trained by Earth's heavier gravity, his reflexes honed by a childhood of competitive sports that the Krell considered barbaric. He didn't fight fair. He didn't fight honorably. He fought like a honey badger, vicious, relentless, and absolutely unwilling to stop. The Krell retreat wasn't tactical. It was survival instinct overriding training. They'd faced warriors before, but never someone who fought like the universe itself had wronged him personally. Joseph reached the observation deck and pulled Sophia into his arms. She was crying but safe. The Krell ships were already ascending, their commanders transmitting frantic reports about unstable human combatant and recommending immediate species threat reassessment. The Academy headmaster found them there, surrounded by debris and disabled Krell equipment. "Joseph, you've started an interstellar incident." Joseph looked down at Sophia, then back at the headmaster. "They scared my sister." The headmaster sighed. "Humans." The Galactic Council would spend months debating this, writing new protocols, trying to create rules that would contain humanity's chaotic protective instincts. They would fail, because rules assumed rational actors and humans in defense of their loved ones were beautifully, terrifyingly irrational. Sophia wiped her tears. "You called yourself a honey badger," Joseph grinned. "It's an Earth thing. Remind me to show you the videos." Above them, the Krell warships disappeared into hyperspace, adding one more entry to their growing file on humanity. When threatened, do not engage. When their young are endangered, retreat immediately. Species demonstrates combat effectiveness multiplier that defies calculation. The galaxy would learn, slowly and painfully, what Earth had always known: never threaten a human's family. They don't care about your rules, your superior technology, or your conquest statistics. They only care about protecting what's theirs, and they're very, very good at it.